Okay, we'll go on and get started. We may still have a few more come in, but again, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I know everybody's got a lot to do. First off, I'd like to say welcome and thank you for coming out today. Obviously, with the new trash service contract that began on Wednesday, there's been a lot of questions, and we hope that today will help answer a lot of those questions. More importantly, because of you all know your neighborhoods, whereas the town doesn't necessarily know every single neighborhood, we wanted this session to be a time where ideas could be shared. The biggest question is about storage of the carts and how that's going to occur in each neighborhood. And again, the town doesn't necessarily know your neighborhood, so we wanted each of you to be able to talk and to share ideas that you've come up with, and we hope that you'll be able to leave here with a plan for your specific neighborhood, or at least the beginnings of a plan. To begin with, my name is Sean Reed. I'm the Community Relations Manager for the Town of Jupiter and the PIO. And just real quick, wanted to go around and have all town staff, as well as we've got some representatives from Waste Management here, have them introduce themselves. So we'll start with Thomas.
So I'm Thomas Hernandez. I'm the Director of Engineering and Public Works. So my department manages some of the day-to-day dealings with the trash contract and the recyclables contract. So essentially, I'm the overall administrator of the contract itself. And then my staff, really Kaylee, I hate to say it, and I'll give her very much credit. Kaylee, as far as the town side, she is basically the first point of contact on a daily basis. She is the one that runs most of the day-to-day operations between us and Waste Management, so I absolutely heard that correctly.
Here, we are videoing this, and we will have this meeting available on YouTube either later today or on Monday. We're not going to put it on our public YouTube site, but we will have a link if you would like it, or if you hear of any other neighborhood that would like to view this meeting, please reach out to, I'll give you an email real quick, Community Relations. So Community Relations at jupiter.fl.us. And any of the three of us will receive that email and can share the link with you. So to begin with, just wanted to kind of answer some of the most frequently asked questions that we have been receiving. During this, if any time you have any questions, please go on and stop me. There will be a time later on in the session that we've set up for questions and again, for you to share your ideas, but please, if at any point, just let me know if you have a question. I'll be happy to answer it. So the first question we have when it comes to the new service is about the size of the cans. The contract that the town has with Waste Management does call for two size cans. We're calling them the smaller can and the larger can. The smaller can is a 64-gallon cart. You can see the dimensions there. It's 32 length, 24 width, and 42 inches high. And then the larger cart is a 96-gallon cart. I will say with the 96-gallon, people that are receiving it had to request it back in the fall. So anybody that receives the larger cart did request that actual cart. And you can see the dimensions on it. It's 35 length, 26 high, and 43 in height. Another question we've had often is anything changing with the service schedule? And the answer to that is no. The schedule is remaining exactly the way it is now. And if there are any questions about what the service schedule for your neighborhood is, you can visit this website. And I'm going to be giving several websites today. If you need time to write them down, please let me know. But they're all going to start with jupiter.fl.us. And then just after the slash is what's going to change. For this one, it's trash collection schedule. So if there are any questions about what the schedule is, including bulk service, you can go to that link and it'll pull up a map showing what days everything is picked up. We've had a lot of questions about how do I replace my cart? If my cart gets stolen or it gets damaged, how do I replace it? The first answer to that is Waste Management will replace a stolen or damaged cart for free. All you have to do is call Waste Management, or I don't know if anybody in here has used our Jupe Connect app. You can request it through the app. That request goes directly to Waste Management so that they can get a new cart out as quickly as possible. We've also had residents say, I'd like to buy a second cart. I don't feel one cart's enough. There is that option. Again, you need to reach out to Waste Management for that. Their phone number I've got on here is 772-546-7700. That goes directly to the WM call center, and they'll be happy to help set up either purchasing the new cart or replacing a damaged or stolen cart. Did want to note that there is a fee for if a second cart somebody wants to purchase a second cart. It's $65 for the cart, plus there's a one-time $25 delivery fee for the cart. Another big question is about placing the carts out on the curb. Obviously, it's a little bit new, whereas not just placing trash bags. I know in the past people have been able to place trash bags, or they've had smaller carts. Because of the automated arm with the new trucks, we do want everybody to be safe with the cans, or the new cans, and Waste Management was kind enough to put together this video that I'll play real quick that just kind of gives some details on this.
Hi, on behalf of WM, thank you for being a valued Town of Jupiter customer. We are committed to providing you with exceptional waste and recycling curbside collection. In March, WM will begin servicing your area with automated waste collection. New carts will be delivered to your home prior to March 1st. Our new automated compressed natural gas fueled collection trucks are equipped with a robotic arm that lifts and empties your new cart without the driver ever leaving the truck, helping to ensure our driver's safety. When placing your cart curbside, please keep these tips in mind to ensure optimal service. Place all bagged garbage inside your cart. Please do not place bags outside the cart, as we will be unable to collect these items with our automated collection trucks. Do not place hazardous waste in your cart, such as lithium-ion and rechargeable batteries, household chemicals, and flammable items. Please have your cart curbside by 6 a.m. on the day of service. Place your cart at the curb with the handle away from the street to ensure that the cart is emptied completely and the lid closes properly. Your cart should be on the opposite side of the driveway from your mailbox and not blocked by any objects such as a car or tree limbs. Keep a 3-foot distance between your garbage cart and recycling containers if your garbage and recycling service is the same day. Our trucks service one side of the road at a time. Therefore, your neighbor across the street may be serviced before your home, but rest assured, our driver will be back to provide service to your side of the street. Thank you again for being a valued WM customer. Please contact our customer service department at 772-546-7700 with any questions.
Okay, so just two things I wanted to point out from the video. First off, all trash does now have to be in the carts. It used to be trash bags could be placed on the curb. Can no longer do that. All the trash for the day has to be in the cart. There's been the question of what if I fill up the cart? That's where residents are going to have to get inventive. At times, so just so you know, as personal testimony, I live in Wellington. We went to this a couple years ago, and there are times we've got to ask a neighbor if we can put some trash in their cart, or we may have to keep a bag in our garage until the next, that the cart's emptied, and then we put it in that night. So the big thing is all the trash does have to be in the cart at this point. Also, for safety features, for your mailbox, for cars, the new cart should be 3 feet away from any of those items. We don't want bushes or cars to get dinged, or mailboxes, anything like that. So please share with your residents that they do need to place the cart 3 feet away from any object. So the service did begin on Wednesday. There are some neighborhoods that received the pickup this week with them. The one thing is the carts, we began delivering carts in...
It would have been February 6th when they started delivering it. So at the current moment, Waste Management is initially, because we estimate, we're in discussing with Waste Management, we expected there were going to be some issues. So continuing through the first start of this, right now they're continuing what's called semi-automated. So instead of the fully automated arm, you'll see where they would come by and grab it. You'll see somebody still on the back of the truck rolling it to the rear load, but they're still using the carts to do the tipping. So to try to deal with any bumps in the road, Waste Management felt it was good to go ahead and continue on to the semi-automated service until such time that we feel like everybody's starting to get a better feel of the program.
Another common question we've had is, what do I do with my current can? If I have a can right now, what do I do with it? There are two options there. First off, we're recommending people keep those cans because a lot of them are smaller for yard waste. You can collect yard waste and put in them, put that can out on the road, and Waste Management will dump it from that can. That way you're not just disposing the can. However, if a resident doesn't want to keep the can for yard waste, they can put it out on their bulk collection day, which is the first collection day of the week. They'll need to turn the can upside down and put a note on it saying that it's trash. And Waste Management will see that, and they will collect it and take those old cans if they so choose. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Sheila McKenna, Jupiter 1. Is it clear to say that if I had a 35-gallon can and I put yard waste in it, that vehicle, that truck can dump it?
So the yard waste is going to continue to be picked up manually. That is still continued through a manual service. Now, if it's a larger pile, such as you cleared out brush on your property, that may be picked up by a clamshell truck. However, through the contract, currently yard waste will still be a manual pickup. But the trash portion, that is a different story. The garbage and refuse, that is a different style pickup.
Yeah, my question is more towards what the truck's capability of lifting a 35-gallon pail.
So, sorry, I should be more specific when I say manual. So that service for a yard waste pickup will still have someone riding on the back of the truck and going past, and even if, let's say, somebody leaves it on the curb, there will still be somebody going, picking that up and directly putting it into the back of the truck. So if somebody has the 35-gallon for the yard waste, yes, they will still be manually picking that up by hand, dumping it into the back of the truck.
But cannot be used for household.
For trash.
Correct. It will not be automatically picked up with the automatic.
But Waste Management does offer a 32-gallon trash can in general as a company.
For a commercial service or a separate item in other locations, they do, but it is not currently something.
That's not part of your contract.
Yeah, it's not something that we have as a part of this. I'd probably leave it to, if y'all wouldn't mind interjecting a little bit as to what that primary purpose is, because it tends to be, it's not really meant for this program. So Jeff, if you wouldn't mind elaborating on it.
You did answer. If you go to the Waste Management, the WM, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say the long word anymore, because we've rebranded the sound WM website. There are offerings on that website that are universal for open market customers that choose, and their subscription service, they're not part of the contract, which this is exclusive and it's a contract. But there are universal offerings of different size carts, including the 30-plus gallon cart, but that is specific to an open market area, not to this area.
Because that's the biggest question I think I've been getting with homeowners that have a single car garage where the HOA mandates that their trash can be hidden from view, that they have to pull their car out to put the trash can in, and then put, it's very difficult with this larger trash can, and then you go to the Waste Man or to WM's website and see that there is a smaller one that's offered. Is there any consideration by the town of Jupiter to maybe move forward with that? And to her point, is the trash can able to grasp the 32 if you guys ever did decide to go to that?
So at the current moment, there's no push by the town to move in that direction. while we were negotiating and working to actually bid out this contract, there was this question was brought up: would there have the ability to, excuse me, go to a smaller size or have 3 different sizes? One, logistically, it would have been very hard to distribute 3 different sizes. It was bad enough just doing the 2, and there were bumps along the way, and that we're still dealing with some of those minor items, but essentially, it was felt even by some of the other haulers that bid, in addition to WM, that it would be very difficult to go with 3 different sizes. The other side to it, the 32 is that with that arm that's set out, it's really meant for, and it will be calibrated to the 64, which, just so everybody's aware, and you may see it as well, all of ours they're slightly different. They're 65 and 95, but we will continue calling them 64 and then 96. But they're calibrated to that specific size. So if we take a smaller cart and they grab it in there, there's potential that the whole cart may go into the back of the truck. So that's really the one of the other issues that we run into logistically, being able to drive around and not dump a smaller cart that's set with a larger setting on that mechanical arm into the back of the truck, and then they turn around and have to retrieve that out of the back of the truck because it did dump it to that location.
Was there any kind of study done or anything about, as far as residents being able to fit these trash cans places, like in smaller communities that have smaller footprints as far as their garage and everything? Was there any kind of consideration?
So not a specific study, but our town council members, they did receive quite a bit of the feedback, and if you could probably look back, and if anybody was interested, you could look back at some of the town council meetings during the negotiation process and some of the solicitation process, where we were fielding these questions at the town council meeting because they were getting that resident feedback, which ultimately, yes, we understand that for many it would be difficult, but moving in that direction basically with the solid waste industry, it is really just the way the industry is going. Another consideration that WM and some of the other haulers have to deal with is, imagine going every single day and having to pick up 800 cans or something that's different size every single time. So essentially, this system is meant to make it easier for the actual service to be able to come by and deal with that. I won't get too much into the details, but that is typically the way the industry is moving. So in some of the issues that were being experienced by Waste Management and some of the other haulers out there, and being able to employ staff to continue on with the regular service, that's really the main reason and some of the considerations as to why we moved in this direction. And ultimately, there was an option to continue the original service, but it was felt after a lot of the deliberations to move to an automated service or semi-automated service.
And it was, I will say, to reiterate what Thomas is saying there, what Jupiter has done is we have moved to what the industry standard is now. And it's really a move we had to make. The unincorporated portions of the county had to make the move about 2 years ago. As I indicated, I live in Wellington. They had to make the move several years ago. Jupiter has just reached the point where we had to make that move. Thomas indicated there was an option to remain where we were at, but town council did not feel it was economically feasible for a lot of Jupiter residents to maintain that. It would have been quite a bit more expensive than what the current billing is. So town council did take everything into consideration and felt that moving to the industry standard at this point was what was best for all of Jupiter.
With the new overhead loading piece, is Waste Management or the town going to do anything about branch trimming?
So are we talking over private roads, or are we talking over regular
community roads?
At this current moment, it's not something that we had planned on doing. Like for example, however, let's say Waste Management brought something to our attention where it was on a town piece of property. It's not something that we couldn't look at. However, most of the time the trees in the neighborhood are not town owned. And we try not to touch too much unless we really have to. Like for example, if I go out and I refurbish the asphalt in the roadways, I have to typically let the HOA know that we have to come through and trim back for that purpose. In theory, most of the neighborhood should be trimmed up to 14.5 feet regardless. I actually think it's a code requirement. If it is something where it absolutely cannot be done, it's going to become a safety hazard because somebody just refuses to do it, the town may step in. However, we would look to the HOAs to maintain their, and the communities to maintain their landscaping up to the proper height. And like I said, I typically wouldn't step in and do that unless it were a true safety hazard and there was a lot of trash that was building up because it just couldn't be picked up.
So I think we're at that proper height, but that looks like it goes higher than that. So,
Jeff Saban again, WM. And I'm going to revert back to the cart discussion very briefly. And one of WM's concerns initially was, especially since we were the incumbent and we've been in the town for 40-some years. It used to be Nichols Sanitation originally, back when I started, is that this agreement was for unlimited setup. You could put everything out right in front of the pole gentleman. So one of our immediate concerns was, even though it's twice a week, we were reducing the amount of volume. We were really pushing to have the 96 gallon issued to everybody standardly, universally. But the town got a lot of feedback from residents and other folks, and then deliberated, as Thomas said, the council talked and got feedback as well, and settled on the 65 gallon as the universal can for the offering, but to the larger can would also be available for that, for the larger families and the higher producers. So that was one thing, and then I did want to address the overhead issue. In some of our more mature neighborhoods, the canopies are there, and we know where they are. But we work with the HOA. We prefer not to have the trees trimmed. We try and work around it, even with the trucks with the higher loading heights and things like that. But if it does become an issue where it's a safety issue and things like that, then Laz and his team will reach out to the town and also the homeowners associations if we feel that the trees need to be trimmed. And of course, we don't propose doing that because it's not necessary in all places. But where they have mature growth, we certainly do that. So, thank you.
I have a question for you. Can you define what an open market is, where the 32 gallon is available?
That's a really good question, and I'm going to address that as kind of the corporate position or perspective. Is that WM has a fairly large footprint in North America, and that certain areas of the country have proposed and continue to have what they have 8-issue franchises for collection contracts. California, Florida, and then there's other places around the United States that also have that. But other than that, they are considered open market, meaning that there are a number of providers, haulers, and competitors that provide levels of service, like they do here in Florida. But the municipal and county governments felt that they wanted to have a secure provider to provide this essential service to their residents and their businesses, and chose to have franchises similar to the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, who's really on the forefront of that as well. They developed this whole franchising, well, their own, but I hope that explained that outside there are places where it's open for business and market, and a lot of those places too have subscription services, where you can have 5 different trucks driving down the same road picking up all the neighborhood. And that was a concern for a lot of governmental entities, saying we can't control 5 trucks and service issues, and a truck breaks down. If there's an act, we don't know which truck or what company is responsible. In this instance, the franchises, we know who it is. There's one provider, one call does it all. So, but outside of that, it is open market and subscription service.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. So you said clearance 14.5 feet, is that correct? 14.5 feet?
Generally, that's what it is over roadways.
So we've always gone by 13
Okay.
in associations and 8-foot clearings on sidewalks. So how tall is the mechanism once it lifts up? What should our oaks, we have 850 oaks in our community. Most of our oaks are in the front, but we do have a substantial amount in the alleyways, which is where this will be picked up from. What should our clearance be?
Before you go too far into it, when you say alleyway, just curious what community?
Mallory Creek?
Mallard Creek. So in the alleyways in Mallard, so you're talking about an Abacoa community. So Abacoa communities actually have smaller trucks. So Abacoa communities, because they do have the smaller alleyways and they pick up in the smaller alleyways, those will not be automated, fully automated. Those will be semi-automated because the truck cannot get down it, have access for a larger size truck, have access for an automated arm to go down that alleyway. That will continue. Someone will ride on the back of the truck. They will roll the cart to the back and to the tipper, and it will pick up the cart using the bar and tip it into the back.
So we'll be semi.
So it, correct.
You'll be semi.
And we can keep our trees maintained at the 13.
Now,
You shouldn't have any
will
issue
it
with
be,
that.
will it be semi for the whole community or just for the alleyway? Because we have both. We have probably.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, we have.
It's a
we have
mix.
single-family homes
Right.
and townhomes. Townhomes all have the waste come out the back of the houses. But the single-family homes, especially the ones that border the perimeter, all right, do not have an alley behind them, so they put their garbage out front. So the question is, are you going to use the big trucks on those roads, or just the whole community is going to be done?
It's been, yes, sir, it's been routed that way.
Okay.
From day one, we realized the other
It's not
drive.
just, I mean, it's not just us, too.
All of the Abacoa.
All of
Yeah.
Abacoa, correct.
Yeah.
Yes, it remains the same.
Okay. 'Cause
Right.
I was going to ask a question about the arm, but it's a moot point now, but because,
Yeah.
you know, if you're going to use the automated arm, you're going to have to go down the alley 2 ways to, you know.
And to step one level further back
One
to
way
it,
you're going the right way, one way you're going the wrong way.
Exactly.
and to step one level further back to that, because of the smaller alleyways and the damage, they route it that way, but the contract also requires it to be done that way. It's actually mapped,
That's good.
so there is not a more damage to the communities because there's not a larger area.
And one of the primary drivers, just to finish this one up, when they first did the site planning for Abacoa, the service alleys in particular, because of the turning radiuses, were very limiting.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, it required a single
They
axle.
struggle with the smaller trucks.
I know.
You know,
Right.
at certain corners because of the side angles and whatever.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I live in Georgia Park. It's HOA community. It's not single-family homes. And for us, the issue is where do you put these cans? Because you have the house, the sidewalk, the parking, the roads. We used to put them in the landscape islands, which are only 4 feet. So now we have to put the cans behind the cars. And we really can't keep the cans 3 feet away from vehicles. Or we're having difficulty locating where to put them.
So you're talking about when you put them out on the curb?
Yeah, we don't have a curb.
Okay.
Right.
We don't have a curb.
Yeah, you're right down the way.
Yeah, so
I know, yeah, we know where you are.
Yeah, just Lazar, if you wouldn't
Well,
mind,
that'd be
because
great.
the microphone needs
Where
to
the
go.
rubber meets the road, I'm just the top.
We don't have a curb.
Lazaro Gonzalez. So currently Georgia Parks, actually, I used to be a driver in that area years ago. But you could keep them in the same place where you currently put your current garbage cans, just away from the cars. So right now you have your cars and then it's the road.
Yes.
So it would be, the only place you could put them is directly right behind the cars, at least 2 to 3 feet, like they mentioned, 3 feet away from it. And that won't interrupt any services.
So he's saying actually place it in the road.
Yeah.
Other people don't like that because if they have to leave, they have to leave.
There's also the little area, I think you mentioned it, where the grass is. They could stack them up right in front of that as well. Then that won't interrupt the cars.
But they
And
won't
that
be
could
3
be.
feet apart if you do that.
I'm sorry?
They won't be 3 feet apart because there's not 3 feet on it.
No, and there's certain areas that they're gonna be tighter. Tom and myself, we actually went and visit this one area that's very tight like that.
Yeah.
The driver himself in that situation could get out, move them accordingly, dump them, and then just put them right back.
Oh.
So there is certain areas where they will have to require to get off and just move them slightly, just to be in the safest area to service.
Are we gonna have that semi-automated truck you were talking about?
So in your area, it is the arm truck.
But they are aware that it's a
Yes.
situation where.
Yes. That driver's been in that route probably about 7 years, and he's gonna be the same one doing that route.
All right, so you have limited space. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for your time today. Per the contract, it does say that the contractor should use a suitable vehicle, blah, 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 blah. We talked about the single access vehicle for all of the Apocoa communities, that I represent all of that. My question is, I was told that currently they are not using the single access vehicles, they are using the larger vehicles. Is that correct information?
So the larger vehicles do have the single axle as well, so the turn radius in those are almost like if it was the mini truck. Yes.
So you are using the smaller vehicles in Apocoa?
We have
right
2 of
now?
them in there, yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. 'Cause I had an email from a board member or two stating that you should be using the single access for waste collection. They were using them in the past, but they are certainly not using them now in all or most of our communities. Is this something that the POA should alert? The dual access trucks don't navigate the alleys very well and are continually destroying them. So what can I say to them in response to this meeting today, Larry?
So for this contract, they actually ordered 4 brand new mini trucks. The times that they've had to use another truck is probably because one was down for service, and just like the gentleman in Georgia Parks, the driver that does that area probably knows Abacoa better than he knows his own neighborhood. So he knows exactly where he could fit it. If it's a tight area, what he does instead of driving forward in, they'll back down the road and bring all the garbage to the truck. So they are aware of those tight areas and make sure that they do not go over. If they can't access it, the one truck that's on the road will make sure to go in there and service them. So there is a possibility they've seen the bigger one, but the rear loader, yeah, it's the same rear loader. It's a rear loader. It's not like the one you saw in the video.
Is that what you're saying? Rear
Yes,
loader?
it's a rear loader.
So it's possible that that they have seen the rear loader, however, you are manipulating your service in order to accommodate the smaller areas.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is just until you're getting the 4 new mini trucks,
Correct.
is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then one more question, please. And that is, if there is a damaged curb, where would the homeowners association contact Waste WM for those repairs to be made?
The same number that was provided,
Okay, great.
and they contact, and that comes actually directly to myself.
7700? So
Yes,
the
ma'am.
WM is taking responsibility for
Yes.
any of those? Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And that number again was 772-546-7700.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tell me what type of truck is being used in the estuary Jupiter DC?
Estuary, yes, across the street. So that's going to be an automated truck. The automated with the arms, one you saw in the video.
Even the narrow areas of...
That was actually the one area that myself
We
and Tom
visited.
went out there and visited, yes. So that's one where we have actually educated the driver, or there could be an area, because in that area, you guys might stack them up in one long row. He'll get out, spread them out, dump them, and then just put them right back.
Okay. If nothing else, we'll go on. We've only got 2 more slides. The next one is kind of the heart of the matter, because it's obviously what the most questions here lately have been about, and that is, where do we store the new cards? The town cannot really tell you, because we don't, again, as I said at the beginning, we don't know your neighborhoods. You know your neighborhoods. And it may take some creative thought to figure out for your neighborhood what works best. For some, it may mean changing the HOA guidelines. Those are going to have to be decisions that each of you have to make, or your HOA boards are going to have to make. And again, what we wanted today to be about was to hear thoughts about how this neighborhood is doing it or this neighborhood, so that you can hear how different neighborhoods are thinking about it. We can, a couple suggestions that are out there, and the town's not recommending these. These are just suggestions that when I searched the internet, I kind of found, was in the garage, obviously. It can go in front of a car, it can go behind a car. If it's a two-car garage, it can go on the side. That's one option. For some, behind the air conditioning unit. Obviously in Jupiter we have code that it can't be visible from the street, but a lot of times you'll have your air conditioning unit and there may be a little open space behind it that will actually block the view of the can from the street. And then finally, the same with bushes. You may have some bushes built that will block the view from the street. Both the air conditioning unit and the bushes would bring it into compliance with town code, so there wouldn't be a problem there. Just some thought. Has anybody in their neighborhood already started to come up with a plan on how they're going to handle that question? Kaylee was stretching. I thought somebody was raising their arm.
Our community, the concern is storing it. So we're in a community that has these two-level quads and a fenced-in patio. So there's a very small shed on the patio for the residents to store their bicycles, maybe a few cans of paint, and a trash can. And now these 5-gallon cans are taking up a majority of this small shed. Now, of course, our rules are that you can't make your shed any larger than it is. We might maybe have to change those rules, I don't know, but there's 128, I think, owners, and we're collecting signatures, so it's my understanding that there is no option for us to have a 32-gallon pail, because that's what was agreed upon by the town, but we may be able to push the town in that direction if we have enough signatures, because it's the huge majority of the residents in Jupiter 1 that have no place to put this unless they take their bicycles out or, beach chairs or whatever it is that they've had in these.
Right. So, I think you can approach council with anything. I will reiterate that we have, as was said earlier, the waste companies wanted to go with a 96-gallon can. They wanted to go with the very largest because that's the way the industry has gone. The town council did get them to agree to the 64. I am not going to predict what council would do if there were requests for a 32. However, that is outside of the industry standard. It also brings back into play the situation that Thomas brought up earlier, that the arms are not calibrated to hold on to that can when it dumps. And so the can could end up in the truck. And that would obviously raise a major problem if...
Then we might have to be the communities that employ more people instead of automated arms. If there's trucks out there that are doing semi-automated, maybe that could be a choice for our communities. That would be a town decision.
That would be a decision that would have to be made by council. And again, I'm not going to speak for council. All I can do is speak about the contract that is in place at this time. So.
And just to confirm, so the current contract is for 8 years, correct?
Correct.
And just to confirm as well, so Avocor, so they're being offered the same two options, 64 and 96?
Correct. They are the same cans. It's just the trucks that are picking them up because the alleys have to be a little smaller.
It is the same regardless. They are not, nobody's getting anything different based on where they live. The only other difference, and for some people that have multifamily that are picked up by actual large containers, that's the only, and like a dumpster, that's really the only main difference for the residential side.
And the positive thing of this is it's supposed to be more cost effective and keep costs down for everyone in Jupiter.
Yes, it's I don't remember the exact figures, but I believe the cost was double to go to the smaller cans or the hand service. So it obviously, again, it was something council had to take into account what was best for everyone. And I'll share, obviously there's a lot of concern about how big the cans are, but when we opened up the request in the fall for the larger can, 25% of the town households chose to go with the larger can. So obviously there is a large push for bigger cans as well. You know, the town has heard it from both sides, and that's kind of why that 64 option was smaller than what WM and the other companies that bid on the contract wanted to go with, but it's obviously a little bit larger than some of our residents are comfortable with. Yes, ma'am.
For clarification, nobody in the town of Jupiter is getting the 32-gallon.
Correct. No one is getting a 32-gallon can.
A lot of information where, like for example, somebody brought up, oh, well, I went on the Waste Management website and I see that they offer a smaller size. There's been a little bit of misinformation that has been passed around, and I'm glad that you asked that question. No one is getting a 32-gallon can for the residential service.
As long as we're on the storage of the carts, there's an ongoing issue that an interpretation of what a street is, okay? Because the town code obviously says that they can't be visible from the street, all right? So we have people who say, well, an alley isn't the street, you know? And there is some reality in that, you know, the alley is an alley, and the street, these townhomes that we have all have the street, you know, on one side, the alley on the back. But especially the interior units, not the end units so much, but the interior units, have very, very little space to store anything, and the garages are very small, and all of us, myself included, have too much stuff. So it ends up, you know, in the garage, and the cars all end up in the driveway. You know, trying to keep these things out of sight is virtually impossible unless you build some kind of an enclosure, especially on the smaller townhomes in the, you know, in the interior sections there. It's just, you know, and one of the big ones, one of the big cans, I mean, there's virtually no space on the inside units to be able to put one of those without building an enclosure off of the back of the unit itself, you know. So a lot of people are saying, oh, well, the alley's not really a street. Then that's an issue that I can't, you know, the code says street. Is the alley a street? Or
So
the main street that the front of the house is facing?
Right. I can't speak to that. If you would like to email me, I'd be happy to ask our code compliance people that question, because they're obviously the ones that are ultimately going out and...
It's just, you know, it's one of these issues with, you know, the code and the rules, and it can't possibly cover every situation,
Right.
You know. And so some determination is going to have to be made, but, you know, obviously we have compliance issues with people right now with the small cans, so, you know, with trying to keep them out of sight. Some people hate them, you know, hey, as far as I'm concerned, you know, garbage is a way of life. We're lucky we can get it picked up.
So Sean, when you get that answer, could you email everybody that's here today?
Yes.
Because our pickups are in the alleyways, the front of the community is a completely separate street, Main Street, and you won't see it. But if they leave it to the side of the garage, it's convenient, and I know they'll do it.
Okay. I will. I'll get with our code compliance director and ask that question to him. And everybody provided their email on the clipboard. So
one of the reasons why everybody wanted the you know, in the design of these things, wanted the garbage cans inside is because of the rodents and other things that we have down here in Florida But these cans are very secure. There's not really going to be, especially from a 65, I got a 95, so it's, I mean, there's nothing going to get in there. And that was one of the real concerns with trying to get the cans out of sight in the garages initially, at least the thinking way back when. But
The open cans.
But that kind of an issue, to get a little bit more clarity out of it as far as the town is concerned from a code perspective, would help us out when we're trying to, at the boards, we're trying to, in the community, we're trying to decide, exactly what language can we put on in our architectural and covenants to keep things as nice as possible, but, not make it unruly and difficult to use.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you repeat for me, in Georgia Park, are we allowed to put the cans out and they don't have to be 3 feet apart?
So it was a question about operations. So essentially whether or not the carts can be placed at a location where they don't need to be 3 feet apart from each other, and potentially the various homeowners could put them in at one location and then driver could get out and space it. Lazaro is giving me a
Yes.
Yes. He's giving me
So
a
it's
head shake.
confirmed.
Yes.
Thank you.
I can give some feedback to Waste Management. The first pickup we had with these, we had a new young man in our community, Jupiter Harbor. He engaged with the residents. He helped them understand how the barrels need to be oriented and how they need to work. He did a great job. He had a smile on his face the whole time. And I give you a lot of credit for that. It really brought down the heat of a first pickup.
Yes.
So compliments.
So thank you for that. And as a matter of fact, I was speaking with Jeff this morning in our crew outs that we had this morning, and we've been doing it since the 1st of March with the Jupiter drivers, asking questions, concerns. A lot of them are being approached by the residents, and some, we've passed out flyers. Some people thought it was garbage and didn't read the flyer. So our drivers are out there educating them as well, and that's why we asked the town to continue with the current service so that we could educate better, so that everyone has a really good understanding of how, where to put them, what's best for the driver. So they are doing that, and we'll continue to do that even when we go into the automated service. So thank you for that, and I'll make sure to share that with my team.
Thank you very much. Real quick, what we're also trying to do, to Laz's point and Thomas's, is because we're doing the rear end load as a transition to the automated, we're going to also try and educate as we go. So we're going to leave tags on carts where there's overflow or there's an issue, and there's a little box on this one where they're going to check what the issue is, so we can communicate more, lessen the phone calls, help people better understand the rights and wrongs, or do's and don'ts, if you will, to make this whole transition. Really over the next month, we're going to take that long to ease it in. So, but thank you again. We're so proud of our folks. They are the human element, and they're the most vital asset we have as a company, and it's all due to leadership and prior driver knowledge and things like that. But thank you so much for those comments.
And so one of the origins of the misinformation would be these cards that were left inside the pails that say, to exchange for a larger or smaller card, please call WM. Now, deciding to call the middle-sized card the small one would be the first step in confusion. You might have a lot of phone calls from the people at Jupiter One asking for a smaller cart. And then will Waste Management automatically deliver another 65-gallon pail? Or, they don't even know where it says 65 on it. I actually had to get the serial number and do a Google search to find out what the actual size of the pail was. Because on the website it does have 3265. So that could be something that maybe you could change on the website, or not hand out these cards, or say it's the medium size, or address it as a 65.
And we refer to it as the small and the large in Jupiter because we do have the two
Right,
options.
but the website has 3, so that's, I think, where the confusion is.
And you're talking about
So you just might have a lot of phone calls from our.
And you're talking about
community,
waste
and I hate to
management
see a lot of pails delivered that are the same size.
It's WM's
Yeah,
website.
yeah, and,
Back
and
to
it's
that, right.
WM's
Just trying to
website.
prevent you
Yeah,
guys from going through.
keep in mind their website's marketed to a national
Yeah,
forum,
okay.
so.
Yeah.
Great
Not
comment.
necessarily.
But, you know,
And
just
you're
make
right.
sure you're not sending like another 120 pails.
Am I correct? And I believe I'm correct in that if somebody wants to know what size can they have, the first 2 digits of the serial number are either 64 or, yeah, so.
Yes.
Yep.
You mentioned exchanges, and I'm scheduled for exchanges as well as some other neighbors of mine. When could they expect those exchanges? Should they be leaving the trash cans out front right now, because that's kind of a violation of the, or is it going to be exchanged after a trash day for a larger?
Great, another really good question. And we really kind of brainstormed on the logistical approach to that because I think it came up, in a communication with Admiral's Cove, an HOA has strict policies on how long the cart or receptacle can be on the curb. It can't. So we're coordinating the exchanges on the collection day following pickup. So, and for our standpoint too, we're not picking up and removing a can full of garbage. It'll be empty. So we're coordinating the delivery and exchanges on the collection day. We're going to try and make it on the first collection day, but it will be on the collection day. So if the question is about exchanges and the time frame in which the cart will get exchanged, it will be on a collection day. Whether it's the first or second time of the week, we can't necessarily commit to, but it'll just happen. Yeah, it'll just happen. You set the cart out, after it's dumped, sometime after that period, just leave it out and we'll exchange it.
And your new one will be there.
And we want to make sure that, we don't overcommit and underdeliver. So we're messaging to the point where right now it's a manageable number of exchanges for us, right? And it's going to start on Monday.
Yes, and I've actually, surprisingly, gotten close to 500 requests to change from the 65 to the 96. So we have that list and we're going through them. And like Jeff's point, we're going to do it on the service day. You'll just come and you'll have a brand new can.
Yes, ma'am.
In Georgia Park, we have recycle bins, your new trash can, and bulk pickup all the same day. And we have limited space. So our neighbors just went out there and looked at each other like, where are we supposed to put all of this stuff? Because we have limited space. So we have the recycle bins, the trash cans, and bulk pickup, and limited space. So we were like frustrated.
And to my knowledge, and I could be wrong, as Georgia Parks rarely ever has a lot of bulk. And they do keep it in one specific area, or maybe 3 of them. I know right when you first come in around the first curve on the right, and then around the back and closer to the exit. So they keep those same 3 local points. That would be the best for the bulk items. Because the truck will just go to one spot, pick it up, and eliminate the driving. The recycling bins, they could put them right beside them, right behind them. Remember, for the recycling, it's not going to change as well. It's going to be in a rear load split body truck where there's going to be an individual in the back and an individual driving. And they could easily walk around any cans and just grab them, dump them, and put them right back. So for that service, it's not going to interrupt nothing for the individual to maybe just walk 3 more steps, grab the bin, dump it, and put it right back.
Yeah, so we had some residents that received 2 and 3 bins on our cornerstone units and some of our townhomes. But we're getting conflicting feedback from WM. Some residents were told to place it street side, which is actually on the grass and common ground on one of the main streets going down East Mallory. And then some units were told that to put it in the alleyways. That's part 1. Part 2, some of them were told that it would be picked up, going back to what you said, right after. And some of our residents were told it would be 3 or 4 weeks. So I need some kind of clarification so I can relay
So the first thing you could relate to the residents in Abacoa, nothing's gonna change to their old service style. Keep putting it where you used to put it, whether it's an alleyway or if you live in.
To retrieve the ones
To retrieve
that
them?
they don't, that they didn't order, all these extras that were received.
Correct. So they're actually, as we speak, out there picking some up already as it is.
Okay.
Keep them in, the best thing that I could recommend, because we know Abacoa as the alleyways. None of our drivers, if you would ask them, they don't even know the front streets, because they know the alleyways. They know that a lot better. So the third-party company that we hired got confused sometimes and delivered to the back and the front, because it's two different street names and numbers. So we're gonna be going around kind of picking those up for them for that confusion.
And it's not gonna be 3 or 4.
No.
But that's great, because I didn't specifically answer the gentleman's question as far as the actual exchange and when it's gonna happen, and you're just, if they're 500, we should have, and we want to be also on the same page with our customer experience folks that answer the phone. So they aren't saying to customers requesting an exchange, oh, it'll be in the next 3 or 4 weeks or a month, when in fact, you know, as soon as we get the order in, we're going to set it up for the next week.
Okay.
So that's kind of what, so it's kind of about a week when we do the exchanges. I just want to make sure we're not disseminating wrong information.
Yes, thank you. Could you give me a timeline to share with all of the Abacoa communities for, if you have a timeline for the use of the mini trucks? Do you have a timeline for that?
Not necessarily. What do you mean use?
Well, when
The new
will
ones.
they start
Oh,
using the
new
smaller
trucks.
vehicles?
Okay.
Got me.
So,
Admit it.
so those
They're
them also.
compressed. Go ahead,
I was
Thomas.
gonna say, it's for them also, that they were required to get some of these various new trucks and fulfill the requirements. And not answering for them, but I know logistically and supply chain was a lot of what they had to deal with in order to get and make sure that they're in compliance with everything as a part of this contract. So they have run into some of those to my knowledge, but if it's different, then I guess I'll let Jeff
So the trucks
further
are
elaborate.
ordered, they're just not being delivered,
Absolutely.
delivered yet, and they're, the rear loaders are being used now, but the drivers are accommodating for the small spaces. Am I gonna get that information out
Absolutely.
to the?
And there's-
Affirmative.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's two minis on the road currently, still the same ones we've always used.
Okay,
Right.
great. And then my last question is a one-sheeter available? We've been sending out information, your videos, et cetera, which has been great information. Is there, by any chance, a one-sheeter with these questions and answers from this agenda that could be put together that we could send out to the communities? Is there a one-sheeter available?
So the town has put together a frequently asked questions on our website. The reason we haven't produced a one-sheeter is because we have a lot of frequently asked questions. They wouldn't fit on one sheet. Yeah, the best thing is just to send them to the website, to the FAQ on the website, and correct, the Town of Jupiter website. And I think I've got the exact link to that on. We got one more slide.
And one of the issues with the truck delivery too is these are all compressed natural gas fueled vehicles. They're specialized. So they're quieter, less emissions, and some people are complaining because they're too quiet and they can't hear the truck coming and they don't get their garbage out in time. It's really phenomenal. And the other thing in terms of communication and brochures, we are updating the Town of Jupiter WM brochure that we provide to the town that gives an overview of all services. And it's distributed to the water department, but that document will also be available online at the Jupiter website.
Thank you.
Getting rid of the small recyclable bins and replacing those with larger?
No, you'll continue to use the same recycling bins.
For how
for,
So currently, the recycle bins are distributed through the Solid Waste Authority. That is their program, and they require dual stream trucks. They don't go into all one bin. That is done through their program, and we're required to follow their program. It's the next step up. The Solid Waste Authority is a county entity. So essentially, to my knowledge, there is no indication that they are planning to move to a single container. So I don't have an answer for you for an actual time frame, because to my knowledge, there is no movement from the county and Solid Waste Authority to move in that direction.
Sorry. In Minnesota, we got the same response, no offense, Thomas, and Waste Management then moved from the 2 little bins to the huge cart. So then we're looking at 2 of these per unit down the line.
I understand, but keep in mind, Solid Waste Authority is the one that mandates the program. It's not the town, or it's not Waste Management either. That is a county program that they are requiring that we continue with the same recycle program in the manner in which it's currently being.
so that's one of the cases where we can understand the concern about having the 2 large cans. No one here has a say in that decision, but I think what Thomas was saying is we haven't been told that the county plans on making that change, that they're, all we know from them is they plan on remaining with the 2 small bins.
So when then that does come up for discussion, will it be widely known? So we, as residents, we have more input into that decision?
I'm just going to pipe in because
You probably deal with SWA more.
I deal directly with the Solid Waste Authority, and through the company I'm liaison for this area. And we have actually had discussions with what we call SWA. They're totally committed to the dual sort system right now, where you have the commingle, the 2 yellow and blue bins. The 2 bin system for them works real well because it maintains a higher quality of materials. And their processing facility is a MRF, materials recovery facility, is set up to sort both materials. They maintain a higher quality, and from a market value, commodity value, there's no incentive, I believe, for them to change the system. What will happen in the future maybe is that you'll reach a tipping point where, the same as we have the discussion about the labor costs of doing that, the dual sort labor intensive program eventually will become very costly. At that point, they'll have to make a decision on which way they want to go. Whether the revenues derived from the materials will offset that or not, or the labor costs are just too exponentially expensive, where they go to what they call the single stream program. It all goes into one cart.
Rocky? Yeah, Rocky had.
Yeah, so I'm with Marina, the Bluff Condo Association. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that property, because we get phone calls from you guys every week about the dumpsters being overfilled. But are there any plans on changing trash pickup there or anything like that?
Because right now, you're servicing dumpsters, right?
Yeah, dumpsters and recycling.
Yes, so the recycling, you still have the 2 bins and you guys put them right near the enclosure. And the dumpsters, so no, there is nothing changing in there. No, nothing's changing there. Your residents still put in the dumpster and the front load truck comes and services it. And the recycling will still stay the same. I was a driver there too.
Yeah, for the benefit that this particular property is serviced, it's called commercial containerized, the multifamily containerized collection, where they have dumpsters that we service. It's separate from the residential.
And before I forget, and before we move on, related to too much else, for example, I guess it was at Jupiter Dunes on what would have been on the south side of Jupiter Beach Road. There is one location that they had were basically cans that are in the ground, and we looked at the location and we came up with the community itself and said, well, not every single person here has the ability in their so it's like an apartment complex, but each building has four different apartments. So as a part of that, they don't have anywhere to put their can or cart, excuse me. So essentially what we were able to do is they currently store their recycling bins outside because they do. They have one large recycling bin for the paper, and then they also have one for the commingled items, plastic and other things. So in that situation, we were able to meet with them and realize that, okay, it was a better situation for them now. Instead of the individual cans that they had, that Waste Management, or WM, was able to provide them 2 of the carts per location, per building, and just each week they take those and roll them out the same way that they would do with their recycling bins. So essentially, while they're still individual residential, we were able to come up with what's almost a community style where they only have 2 bins between the 4 units. So if there are situations where people do have a quad or something like that, it's not to say that we can't look into that situation and try to work with you all to come up with that sort of solution. The other thing that is available, and a lot of times people are not, they don't want the larger bin, or they don't have a place to store it. Residents do have the ability to share. Our contract does allow for that. So it is another option, but we ultimately as the town cannot make that decision for you. You would definitely have to work with your residents, or they would have to make that sort of decision. So.
All right, so the last slide here to start to wrap things up, looking ahead to our next steps and what needs to happen. The one thing we would hope to encourage everybody here is to make a plan that fits your neighborhood. Again, the town can't do that. You know your neighborhoods better than anybody. And so we do ask that you start to formulate a plan, whether it be getting your HOA or your POA boards together and coming up with a plan that's going to fit your neighborhood as a whole. As I mentioned earlier, it may require some changes to the HOA guidelines that you have in place. If you decide to allow, if right now you don't allow people to store cans outside and it's decided that they do, you are going to allow that. It may take some changes to that. Again, the town is here to help and to provide any suggestions we can, but we can't make those decisions. You're the governing boards of the neighborhood, so you've got to make those decisions. And as was mentioned earlier, we do ask that you keep sharing the information that the town is putting out. We do have a fairly robust, frequently asked questions on our website. It's jupiter.fl.us/wastefaq. There's probably 40 to 50 questions on there that we've provided answers for. And then obviously you can call Waste Management. They'd be happy to answer questions. The last thing on there is I'd encourage people, if you're not using or your residents aren't using the Jupe Connect app, it's a great way to reach, in this case, Waste Management, because if any question comes in about waste collection, they're actually answering that question. Or if you have if there's a pothole in a town road that needs to be filled, you can reach out to the town that way. So the Jupe Connect app, it's an app that can be downloaded on any mobile device. Also, you can go onto our website. It's jupiter.fl.us/JupeConnect. And that is a great resource. It's same whether you're using the app or the website, it gets submitted the exact same way.
And can you repeat that email address that you mentioned at the beginning, community relations?
I'll give you 2 emails. So communityrelations@jupiter.fl.us. And then my direct email, which everybody should have if you're here because it meant you received the RSVP email that went out, is Shawn, SHAWNR, @jupiter.fl.us.
Kind of a silly question. Is there any way to camouflage these trash cans? Like, if we want, one of our options is to leave them outside or to change HOA rules and regulations and guidelines as far as having the trash cans hidden from view. Is there a way to paint it the same color as the building so it doesn't stand out so much?
Unfortunately, the can does need to be the blue can. That is what Waste Management looks for on the pickup. We do have the blue color because in the fall we did a poll asking people what color all residents wanted, and blue came back as the winner.
I guess to ask that question,
Trying to think outside the box.
Right.
Lazaro and Jeff, if you don't mind for a moment, just a brief question. The question came up of if someone wanted to paint their cart for the purposes of trying to make it blend into it, contractually, I have no issue with someone painting theirs. The question is, the issue, it comes to operations as to whether or not your driver is going to recognize it. So
I think there may also, I would imagine, just thinking of the logistics of it, that arm reaching out and grabbing the can is probably going to scrape the paint off.
What I've witnessed already, just driving through the town, is that residents have either spray painted their house number, some have put stickers of their house numbers, something that they could identify it's their can.
They wanted to paint the whole can to make it blend in.
It's an eyesore that most people want the trash cans hidden from view because it's an eyesore. And so if it was like blended in somehow, but I know.
I don't have a problem.
I don't have an issue.
I'm just trying to
You know, another option that I've heard is that there are, you know.
You can leave also the Town of Jupiter logo visible, so we can identify that it is one of the toters. Something that, because then some people might just buy cans that look similar to them and color them in their own color. Something that we could see the bar, at least maybe the serial number, so we could identify it is one of the toters that was provided.
I think it would just be a maintenance nightmare.
Correct. It's
Yeah.
a question.
There-
Still servicing.
There are some, I believe, at the hardware stores, I believe there are some screens that could be purchased that kind of act as a block. I'll go back to the one slide. Something like that. That's obviously something people would have to buy. And
One of the objections the HOA has had about trash cans outside has been critters near preserve areas. Are these new trash cans? Are they how?
So this gentleman addressed it earlier. I think with the
I mean, we've never really had any trash can that even the smaller ones that look like that are pretty much critter proof. I mean, we haven't had any problems with the critters from the place we do have problems with critters is when people put bags of trash out, okay, without putting them into containers. As long as they're in the containers, that they're bulky enough, and especially the 65s and the 95s, it's going to take a critter that I don't want to candle with, tangle with, to knock one of those suckers over, because they're really stable, and that's what the coyotes and the bigger animals try to do, is they try to knock the can over. The raccoons are real good at that, but these things here, it's not really an issue. It's just when people start putting bags of garbage out next to it because it's full, or they're just or whatever,
Yeah,
That's where you run in. That's where we run into the critter problem. And trust me, we're surrounded by the waste areas, okay, the water retention areas, and we've got how many rat traps out there? We've got hundreds of them. And they work, to keep the rodent types. They keep them down, but the other, more mobile animals and stuff, they're not even bothered by these size trash cans.
Well, again, in Minnesota, we had these, we had to put the bungee cords over. The raccoons still get in.
The raccoons are very smart. They climb up those bungee cords and they chew them.
Yeah, and they pop. Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you from my experience, again, since I moved to Wellington 5 years ago, we've been on these, and the only time we see animals get into a can is if the can is overfilled, so the lid is propped open. We'll have animals get in the recycling because it's the same little bins, but if the can's not overfilled, and I know I've dealt with rats in my house, so I know we have rats and they have never gotten in the trash can. Anything else? Well, we thank you for coming out. Again, this has been videoed, and what I'll do is by Monday I'll have an answer from code compliance about the alleyway question. Is it a road, is it an alleyway? And I'll also share the link for this in case you want to share it with anybody else.